Hello preppers, welcome to Goshen Prepping. Today I want to talk about, executive orders for the fact that presidents throughout history have made it so if we stockpile and we have food and water, the government can take it in case of emergencies. And I've had people say, oh, that's not true at all. It is true, and I'm going to show you the proof and the facts about this so we can be ready. But first things first, I want you to understand there's no law at all that says we can't stockpile. We can stockpile as much as we want to. Stockpile food, water, whatever you need to. It's just when there's an emergency, the government may take that food and water from you. And here's why. The first is Executive Order 10998. This is from JFK, assigning emergency preparedness functions to the Secretary of Agriculture. And this may not affect you and I so much, but ultimately what happens is the federal government can actually take control of agriculture in times of emergency. The Secretary shall also develop plans and procedures for the proper utilization of agricultural items stockpiled for survival purposes. And it's interesting because later on, there was another executive order that basically said, no, sorry, JFK, you can't do that. But then there was another executive order even later that said, oh, yes, you can. So ultimately, the commander-in-chief can be in control of agriculture. Next up, Executive Order 12656. This is from good old Ronnie Reagan. Assignment of emergency preparedness responsibilities. In this one, federal departments and national security agencies are responsible for preparing plans and procedures to share between and among responsible agencies resources such as, food, supplies, water, etc., and assign the workforce needed to carry out those responsibilities. Ultimately, they are develop plans to set priorities and allocate resources among civilian and military claimants. So overall, this one's really not that big of a deal. It makes it so if there's a certain agency that oversees food here, but there's another federal agency over here that has some extra food, they can shift it among the different agencies, and that's actually smart. But this next one, not so much. Next up, good old Slick Willie, Executive Order 12919, the National Defense Industrial Resources Preparedness. In this one, it gives the federal government nothing less than the power to seize any type of food and water from the civilian population. They can confiscate all commodities and products that are capable of being ingested by either human or animals at all stages of processing. Not to mention they can confiscate all usable water from all sources within the jurisdiction of the United States, which can be managed, controlled, and allocated to meet emergency requirements. By this executive order, they can take all of your food and water, every single morsel. But if that's not enough, good old Barack Obama, 13603, this one's better known as the National Defense Resources Preparedness. This gives the federal government power to confiscate and redistribute all potable water, food, and whatever resources are necessary to protect the U.S. during a state of emergency. So Bill Clinton's executive order was all about food and water, whereas Barack Obama said, not just food and water, but any type of goods at all, any supplies that the government deems necessary for them to use, they can take. I mean, think about it right now. In our country, we are actually at a major ammunition shortage, and if we head into World War III or some type of major conflict, they may try to take that as well. But wait, there's more. Donald Trump, he issued an executive order where the secretary has delegated the authority the president conferred on Section 102 to prevent hoarding of health and medical resources necessary to respond, in this case, with the spread of COVID, including authority to prescribe conditions with respect to accumulation of resources and to designate any material as a scarce material or as a material supply which would be threatened by persons accumulating the material either in excess of reasonable demands, business, personal, home consumption doesn't matter, or for the purpose of resale at prices in excess of prevailing market prices. In other words, certain medical items that the government deems necessary, if you have access to those supplies, they can take them from you. But it's also about price gouging. No, guys, only the hospitals and Big Farm can do the price gouging. That's not up to us. All right, so in these situations, if there's martial law, if there's some kind of national emergency, which, any president can simply say, flick of a pen, this is national emergency. They can take your stockpiles. And it's interesting because people are like, stockpiling and hoarding is illegal. No, it's not. They want you to do it because thanks for storing it up for them. They can come and take it at any whim, whatever they want to, if there's an executive order or emergency. And people say, it'll never come to that. Then tell me, why did they actually make these executive orders in the first place unless they actually intend on using them? So I don't know. As a prepper, I'll tell you what I can't really tell you what to do. I'll let you go ahead and make that decision. I love the good old thing was, sorry, I took all my prepping supplies, all that food I stockpiled, and I took it on a nice excursion on my boat, and it fell overboard. I'm sorry. It's up to you how you want to handle that situation. But understand, and I want to make this adamantly clear, the government, they believe they have a right to take it all from you if there's some type of emergency.